Hello. Some background on this assignment. I designed a closed reading activity where my students were to analyze and annotate on a narrative story, and based on their annotations, they were going to answer some comprehension questions. I did this using a procedural analysis flowchart, and this is the first version I turned in for assignment 3. After some reflection, I added in a couple more squares. I started with this one for my first set of students, and I noticed right away that there was a couple of things missing. For example, they needed more opportunities for discussion after each step instead of waiting all the way to this step. I added in more right after each step. This is because all these steps right here are too many for them to recall at a time, and so when I gave them the opportunity to discuss after each step, they didn't have to waste time on recalling information. They were able to just give their answers and then quickly move on to the next step. Given the opportunity, I would also go over summary a little bit more with my students. In the comprehension questions, that's the question that most of them got wrong because I didn't give them enough instruction on that. I also used this assignment as a wrap-up for the first 5 units of the curriculum that we have been using, which is fine. However, my mistake was the way that I gave them this assessment. I gave it to them through using an iPad and through the program Shobi, and they hadn't touched an iPad at all this semester, so it was difficult for them because they didn't know how to use an iPad, they didn't know how to use the program, and then I hadn't really given them much instruction on closed reading either, so the procedural analysis was difficult to follow, as well as me having to change it up because of the difficulty. So if I had given them a practice assessment before this, it would have gone a lot more smoothly than it did. Over 50% of my students had difficulty with the question for summary, so definitely need more training in that skill. And like I said, my morning class and afternoon class definitely was like night and day, how different it was when I used a different flowchart. Their comprehension was so much easier to see, and they were definitely more responsive. This assessment is applicable to real life because I feel like analyzing text is important now in 5th grade, just as it is important in college when they're designing research projects or turning in research papers, and when they're older and they have to sign important documents for homes or car loans, they need to be able to analyze the text and understand what they're reading and what they're signing. There is a variety of formats for assessment on this. For example, the assessment itself can be taken on iPad or on paper. And also, the actual assessment has multiple ways of assessing them. Can they follow directions? Can they follow the flowchart? Can they underline and circle the right words? Can they answer the questions for comprehension? Those are all different ways of assessing their knowledge. I wish I had given them a little bit more time for self-assessment. I think I need more time to see how I can incorporate that, but it is a possibility. And if I think about it clearly, underlining can be a type of reflection because if they didn't underline the right part of the text, then they could get the questions wrong. So there was an opportunity for reflection. I just need more work on the self-assessment.